Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we are going to be checking out the Alien Trilogy game for the original PlayStation.
Yes, this comes to us as a Patreon review request from our buddy Mook. Thank you so very much, pal. And yeah, if you would like to get your own review request, check out the links below to our Patreon. Some good stuff down there. And this, speaking of good things, it's a Doom clone.
But it's a pretty good one.
Yes, it is. Let's show you why. Originally released in 1996, this was developed by Probe Entertainment and published by Acclaim. It came out on the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, and DOS. Today we're taking a look at the PlayStation version. Like I said, this is a Doom clone, and given the time, there are a ton of them. Does this set itself apart from the rest of the crowd? Well, we're about to tell you why. For graphics, one thing you gotta keep in mind, and this is a very early game on the PlayStation, so you kind of have to temper your expectations, but what it pulls off is pretty cool. So, as a Doom clone, it does the same basic setup where it's a 3D background with 2D sprites for all the bad guys that you have to fight. And you know what? They look pretty good. From the xenomorphs, to the dog aliens, to the synthetics, to the queen. Like, everything does look pretty cool in this game. So, they do a cool thing where they kind of try to do a little bit of all three Alien movies at the time, so you get, from Aliens, you're inside the colony, and then from Alien 3, you're kind of inside that prison colony area, and then you eventually wind up on the ship from Aliens, so it's cool how they do that, even though eventually it's easy to get lost in these levels just because everything looks so much the same. There's a map for the game, though, and it's one of those ones where the map will start to fill itself out as you progress until you actually find the in-game map. So that's a little touch that it's in like a billion games, but still one that we always kind of liked. So kudos to them there. There are CGI cutscenes, and I was like, okay, I was surprised by how good they looked to me from what I was expecting. But for someone today going back to it, it's gonna show its age. So just keep that in mind. But for what it is, I think it's still kind of cool. I wish there were more of them. There's a real big elephant in the room with this game, though, and it's called the darkness. This game is so incredibly dark. It's cool because they do that whole moody thing that you get from the Alien franchise to build up the suspense and the jump scares, and it's also a pretty clever way to hide the low draw distance in this game, but it's excessive. And sure, you can eventually get a shoulder-mounted lamp, but it dies way too quick. So, for the most part, you're just going to be barely being able to see in front of you, and it gets annoying quick.
And Jim, it is worth mentioning, when I played through this game, I started on the PS3, thought, wow, either there's something wrong with my TV or I don't know what. Then I switched it to my PS2, I got an okay version of it, but you had issues on every version you played. So, yeah, like Jim's saying, the game is really dark. I don't even know what the optimal way to play it is. Maybe it's PS1, maybe it's PS2, or emulation.
And I'll let you know right now. So Brian got a decent video out of the PS2 Slim. I tried on a PS3, a PS2 Fat Boy, a PS1 through Component, and a PS1 through Composite. And it was all nearly unplayably dark. So I was having a hell of a time trying to do anything in this game. And it's such a shame that it's kind of like that. But at least in later levels, it's not as bad. But when it's all said and done, we still like the way it looks. So Brian gave it a 7 and I gave it a 6. When it comes to beer, I'm going to add 2 beers. 1 for the really cool way it builds on the Alien franchise, and 2 for the horrific darkness. The sound. You know what? For a licensed game, this is a really cool package because they nail the noise that you would expect to hear from the Alien franchise. From the background music, in some levels it's just pretty much ambient noise, and sometimes you get music but it's nice and moody. All the guns sound like they were ripped right out of the movies. The little bit of voice acting you get in the games, it seems like it's just pulled from the movies, so it does sound pretty good. The music during the cutscenes can be a little more upbeat and goofy than you'd expect to hear, but that's kind of a minor gripe in the grand scheme of things. But everything sounds good, maybe a tiny bit uninspired, but for Alien it kind of is what it is. It's licensed, so we gave it 7s. And when it comes to beer, I'll just give it 1 beer for that weird cutscene music.
The control. Well, Jim already mentioned, this is a Doom clone. And it's a Doom clone mostly in the control scheme. Because you use the D-pad to move around, you have no ability to look up or down, So some people may not like it, others may like the fact that it takes all the thinking out of how you aim your guns, because wherever you shoot, your bullets will magically kind of go towards that area. So that can be kind of fun, but the basic layout is actually pretty simple. So you have O as your action button, square or X will actually shoot your gun, so you have two options there, and then you have triangle to toggle through your weapons. If you use L2, you have the ability to run around, and if you use L1 or R1, you can strafe. And this translated really well, and as a kid who played Doom on PC, I was always worried about an FPS on a controller, and this one showed me that, hey, that is pretty possible. So I really liked it. It didn't give us too much input lag, but I will be honest, the movement on a fixed grid with a D-pad never feels satisfying, and you will get caught on so many things unless you're master at strafing back and forth as you move. So that always felt a little clunky. The shooting itself was fine, but how slow you can be to move around is really, really obvious once you're facing some of these faster alien types. So when it comes to scores, we both gave it 7s. There's nothing inherently wrong, but it certainly doesn't feel perfect. So when it comes to beers, I'm only going to add 1 because it's a limitation of the time. I'm not trying to show on the game too much. The gameplay. Since this is a Doom clone, there's not a whole lot I have to say that you don't know. But as Jim alluded to, the game does take place loosely over the 3 movies. If you're looking for story here, then you came to the wrong game. You are playing as Ripley, and oddly enough, it is the shaved head, so it's from the 3rd movie, but her missions are all surrounding the idea that you need to go into areas, clear them out, so that Marines can come through behind you. With that being said, it starts you on LV-492, and you are basically going through the areas from the Aliens movie, and then as Jim said, the second set of levels all come from Alien 3, and finally you end up on the ship from the original Alien movie, so you get a tiny bit of variety, but honestly, there's not a lot here. Every mission involves either clearing out all the aliens in a specific area, finding dog tags of fallen Marines, or you get these bonus restock missions that are on the thing I hate the most, those goddamn timers, and I think you get 30 to 50 seconds. Sometimes I found myself just going right to the door because, as Jim said, these levels are like goddamn mazes, so you'll end up dying just trying to restock. However, if you're playing this game correctly, ammo is going to be a huge issue. Now you have a lot of weapons to help you, like a handgun, a shotgun, the pulse rifle, the smart rifle, the flamethrower, and a few grenades, but honestly, it doesn't matter because some of these enemies take so many bullets, and if anyone is fans of the original Doom game, this is unrelenting just like that, because you gotta be good at this. Or you can do what I did, which is at some point say, fuck it, I'm gonna put in a cheat code. And these are one of those cheat codes that basically make fun of you. Like, I think the God mode one was, I got acid on my pink boots or something, kind of making fun of you. And then, of course, you do get those big boss battles. But, like so many other games, there's such an easy exploit here that if you just start shooting on her, she's locked in place. This is a known glitch that, like, her animation freezes as soon as you do that. So, pull out your pulse rifle or smart gun, and do not let go until she's down. That's my best advice for you. So when it comes to scores, I gave it an 8, Jim gave it a 7. I actually enjoyed it, especially because I'm such a fan of the Alien series, but I could see as anyone who loves FPSs could get enjoyment, others may not. When it comes to beer, I'm only going to add 2, because you're going to need some beer for the 30 levels to get through, and getting through all those mazes is a pain in the dick.
Alright, the originality. I mean, it's a Doom clone, so how much can I give it there? But there's a few things here. So, jump into the score real quick. I was going to give it a 4 for being the first Alien first-person shooter, but oops! Jaguar! Alien vs. Predator! So, I'm going to have to bump that score down, but I mean, the biggest originality for this game is the fact that it's the first Alien-related game from the 5th gen, and it's the first one to really feel like it handled the license well. Like, it's not perfect, like Ripley being bald but in a suit of armor is kind of goofy, but besides that, I mean, it does a pretty good job of bringing in all the elements from the movies. So, Brian gave it a 4, I gave it a 3. And when it comes to beer, I'll add 1 beer for that. Just, why does Ripley in armor? When has she ever been in armor? I don't get it.
Stop trying to see her nips.
Do it.
Alright, when it comes to replayability, similar to Originality, there's unfortunately not a ton here. You only get one ending, and yes, there are 30 levels, and there are some secrets here and there, but for the most part, as I said, the missions are so linear, there's not going to be a ton of exploring. I will say, this game is hard as shit, so you are going to be forced to replay the levels because they are brutal with how they will restart you at the beginning of a level, half health, still missing ammo, so you're going to have to get pretty expert if you want to beat the game legit. Because of that reason, we both gave it 4s. It's slightly more replayable than just a typical hard game, but that's only due to the nature of the number of levels and the goofiness that is the map design. When it comes to beers, I'm only going to add 1 because at this point you're probably already a little tipsy and you're going to need some help getting through this game. Alright, so overall, this is a really fun game. It's just like has a lot of potential that it missed, and this is one of the odd situations where graphics really affected the game.
Yeah, and I know a ton of people love this game, so it's gotta be people who grew up with it, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, don't get me wrong, if I was playing this back in 96,
You'd be hooked.
I would absolutely love it too. It would be everything I ever wanted from a game.
The nostalgia of the game I can see because, especially when it came out, all first 3 Alien movies got released on VHS. Alien Resurrection was just hitting the theater, so there was like a big hype behind it. If you love the franchise, this was the game for you. Going back, it just didn't age that well because of the limitations of the hardware, but still, you can get a lot of fun out of it. So I'm not ruling it out completely. It's a completely fine FPS. There are just better ones out there, and yeah, if you can find it cheap, I'd still probably recommend it.
I wish they remade it with DualShock support.
Yeah.
If they did that, it probably would have just made it probably would be super playable today and surprisingly hidden gem level kind of deal. As is though, it's still really good for its time.
Yeah.
So I can't complain too much for just being such an early game. So it is fun. I just wish I could goddamn see.
Yeah. So when it comes to scores, we both gave it 7s. That's as nice as we can be given the limitations of the game because we know what it could have been, and when we combined all of our scores, it's a 6.8. We think that's a really fair with little to no nostalgia tied to those scores.
I can't bash it too much for what it does right or for what it does wrong because it does do a lot of stuff right.
What would you be willing to pay for it if you saw it loose or complete in box? Let's say.
Probably tops $20.
Okay, yeah, if you're an Alien fan, you'll get a lot of fun out of it. Like I said, it's not top tier, but it was a fun game, so thank you once again, Mook, for the suggestion.
Oh yeah, for sure. And once again, to anyone out there who would like your own video game review, check the links below. But yeah, seriously, thanks again, Mook. We really appreciate the support.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Is that beer? Ah! When it comes to beer pairing, I'm going to go with the Harpoon Brewery's UFO White. This is their wheat beer that comes in at 4.8%, and it has a ton of fresh and citrus flavors. It can go down real easy, so that's perfect for a game where you're going to need a lot of beers. Grab a 6-pack or maybe even a case, sit down and enjoy yourself. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly.